would be willing to challenge him, he would fight him.
Really? That was your father's father.
My father's, I never met the guy.
He owned a bar in Avoca, Pennsylvania.
Yep, and next to him was a lot, and they call it Jackson Field.
Jackson Field in Avoca, huh?
Yep.
And so he was kind of a fighting Irish guy, huh?
Fighting Irish guy, right?
Wow. That's marvelous to see these. A lot of these gravestones are grown over, so I'm glad that these are still showing.
May and I spent $100 to have
Oh, I see.
Lucy and Joe's, and
Yeah. And who are the Tunnies? They're
this is my dad's sister.
Tunnies are. Oh, I see. Okay.
My dad was one of 16, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was the last one.
Wow.
Mary Kennedy was the oldest.
Yeah.
And she and Ed moved to Buffalo first.
Mm-hmm.
And after they moved here and got a job at the steel plant,
Mm-hmm.
this is when a lot of their relatives come up here.
I see. Okay.
You heard of the Farrells, for instance?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was my dad's sister.
So a lot of people moved up here from there, but
Because there's work here.
Sure. I would imagine we have a lot of Jackson relatives floating around that we don't even know.
Well, there's some in West Seneca too. In fact, some of the
I actually met a girl in college many years ago. Her last name was Jackson, and she asked me, to tell me about like my grandfather, and I kept all the details I told her. She said those are exactly the same details as her family. So we assumed that we were like, I guess, cousins or something. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's a small world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in fact, when I was a kid, we used to laugh at the people up in Buffalo because of the snow. And, little did I realize someday I'd be coming up here for a job,
Yeah.
So I didn't come up here for a job. The reason I come up here, when I was in the Navy, my dad did write me a letter. He says, we got to move.
Oh.
Where should I move to, New Jersey
Yeah.
or Buffalo?
Yeah.
I says, well, Dad, your relatives are all in Buffalo. Why don't you move to Buffalo?
Yeah, that makes some sense.
So I don't know how much influence I had on him, but I'm sure he had the job at Bethlehem already lined up.
I gotcha. Yeah.
And then some of his relatives, I can't think of the name right now, got him at that house in Blasdell.
I see.
Got
Okay.
him.
Yeah. I remember playing there when I was a little boy.
In other words, when he come up here, he already had a house to move into. Of course, he rented it first,
Oh, okay.
and then the next thing you know, he bought that house.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of memories.
But just think, he didn't have a car.
How did he? I guess just public transit.
He
And everything?
walked to the steel plant.
Oh well, from where that house is, yeah, you could walk there.
Yeah,
It's
but
still a little bit of a
certain
walk.
shifts it might have been tough.
Yeah.
But he walked a lot, and then he did get rides.
Okay.
And then your father had a car,
Yeah. Okay.
and she sold it to my dad.
So it's quite a. I remember that strangely, but I mean to go from working in the coal mines to moving up here, not having a car, with 3 kids and the whole thing. Of course, you were off in the Navy by then. Was it the Navy or the Air Force?
Navy.
Navy.
Okay,
and then I think the wealth and that you and my father had, and of course, your sister as well. We lived at a much higher standard than what he grew up in, and probably his father as well.
Well, you got to realize too, they lived during the Depression.
Yeah.
Everybody had it tough during the Depression.
Yeah.
It was tough even here during the Depression.
Oh, sure. That's a good point.
I can still picture my father listening to the radio to find out how many days he was going to work the next week.
Gosh.
And sometimes it'd be 3 days.
No.
And he had
Wow.
those kids to.
Didn't they shut down the mines at certain times, and different people bought it, and what was the deal with that?
Stuff like that would happen.
Yeah.
What would happen after, just so that the guys wouldn't get a pension, and the owners were all related.
Oh, I get
they
it.
were all mafia
So it was
guys.
mafia. Was it?
So after about 10 years or less than 10 years,
Wow.
they would go bankrupt,
Sure.
close the coal mine,
Yeah.
and then this would allow them then to dump any worker or any person they didn't like.
Jeez. Gosh.
So my dad would talk about standing outside the fence
Yeah.
and the guy inside the fence says, "You got a job.
Mm-hmm.
You got a job. You get out of here."
Holy cow.
You know,
And then where would they go? What would they do?
I don't know.
You know?
I don't know.
Oh.
Well, there must have been other work other than mines, you know.
Yeah, I guess. Wow, that's some rough
Well,
stuff.
the railroad for one thing.
Okay, right.
Yeah, down there it seems like you either worked for the railroad or you worked in the coal mines.
Now, we had a relative who died on the railroad. What was his name?
My grandfather,
Your grandfather,
James McNevin.
James McNevin.
He got stuck between two cars,
Oh, Lord.
right, just like this.
Oh, jeez.
And back in those days, what they did is they picked him up and they knocked on the door and
Yeah.
said, "Here, Mrs. McNevin, here's your husband." Put him
Oh.
on the floor and left.
Good God. Oh,
And all
is the-
people did then was put a wreath on their door,
yeah, yeah.
and you had you wait the person at home.
Hmm.
So his name was James McNevin, and this is why
Yeah.
I was
Oh, James.
named James. I was
Okay.
named after him.
Okay.
But his wife, my grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
she's one with the Irish brogue.
Oh, she had an Irish brogue, huh?
So I was born and raised in her house
Oh, that's nice.
until she died. But she
Hmm.
called me Seamus. And she say Seamus O'Hacken is
And what was the? You had great uncles that would make jokes. You told me the one about like you got to know your sense or something or other. I forgot the joke.
Gazintas.
Gazintas, yeah.
He told your father.
Do you know your gazintas?
He'd walk in the house and he wouldn't say hi, Earl. Do you know your gazintas? He'd say to the kids, me and John.
Yeah.
I think Marion was too old at that
Oh,
time.
okay.
Marion was a good student and older.
Like,
Marion was older, Marion was 5 years older than me. I'm 3 years older than John.
right.
So the difference between John and Marion would be 8 years. So
My gosh. Yeah.
he said this Gazetta stuff more to John and me. And then, of course, with John being 3 years younger than me, why, this must have scared John. John a lot. What's the Gazettas,
Yeah,
you know?
your 2 goes into 2 is 4, and your
2 goes into 4, you know.
Yeah,
but
that's so
we call
funny.
them Gazettas. But he's the one that told John, don't take any guff from those nuns.
Wow.
So John the next day went to school and
Yeah.
or shortly thereafter, and he
Holy moly.
got in a fight with one of the nuns and broke her rosary beads.
What? My dad?
Yep.
That's the sin right there.
Because they had rosary beads down to here.
Yeah, but he told me that they locked him in a closet with like mice and things. So
Is that right?
yeah, he had a massive phobia of rats and mice because of that.
Oh, is that right? Wow.
Nah.
I never knew that.
Uh,
But I know the worst thing you could do
mhm.
in a parochial school would be to break the nuns.
Oh,
the
that
nuns,
must have been a heck
the
of
nuns,
a situation.
rosary
Sure.
beads. Huh?
Well, it's a little
That's-
family
that-
history there.
That'd be a mortal sin.
Yeah, so he's
Son.
not taking any more guff then.